Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this fun interactive session with Dr.Mitika, who has joined us all the way from Los Angeles, California. She's a de-addiction specialist. The whole talk will be mainly about how we can, what we can do to stop ourselves from getting addicted to the most common temptations around us: food, digital distractions, smoking, and alcohol. Food is something, it's going to be a pretty jam-packed session. Food is something which starts early on from childhood. Children craving for sweets, some schools don't recognize this. There is a lot of industry players who play a huge influence in the food choices we make. They even have these multi-million dollar companies, even have food scientists who can come up with this perfect combination of SOS, salt, oil, and sugar, which makes it so impossible for us and even our kids to resist these kind of dopamine rich. They kind of hit and play with the dopamine pathways, which is super addictive. And I think that later on, when kids grow into teenage years, that kind of translates to digital distractions, which are plenty. Video games, again built by trained and on scientific evidence of providing instant gratifications. I understand there are psychologists behind developing these games and creating these kind of strategies, which gets everybody hooked on to these. In the later years, smoking, alcohol, and drugs. So mainly focusing initially on food. Dr. Mitika, if I can ask you to introduce yourself, because you have such a long profile, if you could just give us an introduction of how you got into this and what kind of work you've been doing.
So I'm Dr.Mitika Kanabar. I did my medical school in India, then did further studies in the US. So I did my family medicine residency, and then I got selected to do addiction medicine fellowship at Stanford. And then since then I've been working in California. Initially I did some primary care and addiction medicine. Currently I do addiction medicine and lifestyle medicine in Southern California. In this period, it's been an interesting journey. So I've been practicing addiction for the last 8 years, and recently chaired the California Society of Addiction Medicine Conference, which is one of the biggest addiction conferences in the US. So it's just very grateful for this whole journey.
Wonderful. It's, I think, fantastic to have people who have such experience and expertise in this field, about which the field itself is not so, many people are not aware of such a specialty. And I think more and more physicians should involve that as a focus of reference in their practices, so our patients can get the best kind of treatment and management into their journeys into de-addiction. So I think foods, when you look at food, providers of food, be it cooks, be it chefs, parents, any caregivers around making this food available, be it a home cooked meal, or be it something which you can purchase in a grocery store, or order in a restaurant, or even just when you're shopping. There are a lot of basic things one needs to be aware of, to be careful not to fall into this vicious trap of food addiction. I would like to call it addiction because it is, I think, one of the most under-recognized concepts, because we mourn around, we celebrate around food, that somehow becomes a center even in most of the social gatherings, and without realizing, a lot of unhealthy food gets cooked, gets served and consumed. What would your thoughts be on this? What can we collectively as a society and individually as physicians do to create awareness or spread this kind of educate the people, the food providers in all these multiple
So
sections.
food is generally a topic where if you say anything about it, you'll unfriend people very fast.
Yes, I've seen that.
It is
yeah.
very personal. People take it as an affront onto themselves, and there's so many emotions around food. So you can't look at food and not look at emotions. And then you can just notice the emotions and file them away for further reference. Or when you are more ready to make changes, question why. Why is this emotion associated with this food? Or why is this emotion associated with food in general? So you're right, a lot of the cultural norms across the world, you would celebrate food because before things got, available in such a way, food was scarce and people were sometimes starving to death. So food was very important. It meant sustenance, it meant life. And from that, it has emerged into something different as a period of access. It's almost like the Hunger Games. Like when you go in the Hunger Games, you go to the capital, and these people see how people are celebrating, and they're even using these concoctions to vomit so that they could eat more. Right? So it's not there yet. Thankfully, that's just a dystopian novel. At the same time, we also have to acknowledge the presence of ultra-processed foods. So food is great. We should all be consuming food. It's something we need daily. And that's why when it comes to the words food addiction, the addiction community is not yet ready to think about food as an addiction, because we not only need to know what's going on from a behavioral standpoint, but you are the expert here. You are the nuclear medicine expert. We need to have nuclear medicine and other evidence to support those hypotheses. So currently food addiction is a research topic, and Dr. Gerhardt has come up with the Yale Food Addiction Scale, which is similar to most of the other addiction sort of criteria. And is it ready for clinical application? Not yet. So what do we look at? So we look at things in terms of anorexia or bulimia or binge eating disorder. So what gets certainly seen as food addiction, a lot of it can meet criteria for binge addiction, but there are certain aspects that binge eating disorder will not look at is part of food addiction. So those are these intricacies. What can we do? We have to be very aware of what we call UPF, so ultra processed foods. So they were sort of designed by the industry to be, addictive, just like tobacco was eventually made more and more addictive with what is available to you. So some of it is going to have the same effect on your brain. Like if you tell me, say for example, soda, right? I see 2-year-olds. I go shopping when I'm in India, and I see 2-year-olds like drinking an entire can of Pepsi, or not a can, like a 200 or 250 ml bottle. And I'm just first of all worried about their teeth.
Yes.
Right? I don't know why if mom is shopping, why does the kid need either a Sprint or cola or something else to survive? And how are we supporting the family unit? How are we supporting the mother? So I'm very protective towards women because we unfortunately get the brunt of everything. So why does food become this control issue? Essentially, it becomes a control issue, right? You tell somebody, okay, you need to cook without oil, and that is going to ruffle so many feathers, I can't tell you.
Oh yes.
Right?
Yes.
So why is it that way? And when I question why, I'm like, okay, so if you are in a society where you don't have much support, and everybody else tells you what on earth to do, and wants to dictate every minute of your life, food is the only time you have some control. And all of your control gets exerted on that plate. That poor plate can't fix everything. So a lot of it is about boundary setting. And if you don't have how do I say it? You need to be financially secure to set boundaries with people.
Absolutely.
And that's what's lacking.
True. Very true. You said it. I've seen, food is sometimes even stronger than religion. People will probably think about changing their religion more easily than they can change their food habits. And in nuclear medicine, we see the effect of food almost immediately. We actually do the brain scans, which are, we do dopamine scans, mainly used for Parkinson's disease, but you can see the effect of sugar in PET CT scans, or the types of food in the gut scans. So it's a very, very, very important, it plays a very important role in the biomechanics, which is kind of probably still very poorly understood yet. There's a lot more research which needs to happen on this. And I think better than a word, but for lack of a better word, addiction, I would call it perhaps hedonic eating, or even emotional eating. I think that's probably a more apt word in the context of things today. Uh, Moving on to the different digital addictions, it got recently added into the textbooks also. It's a new disease in itself, or a disorder defined as impulse control disorder, digital addiction. Impulse control disorder towards devices, technologies, or platforms in this digital space, which includes the internet, video games, online platforms, mobile, telephones, gadgets, and social media on which is available on screen in multiple forms. Your tablet, your telephone, your laptops, your desktops. So, would you have any tips for a screen detox, or how can we better focus our energies on more positive things, especially with the younger generation who are the Gen Z, so-called Gen Z, who were born with the internet and who are a lot more versed in the usage of all these gadgets, and they have seen less of the real world and more of this virtual space. What would you say on that?
So this is very interesting. So as from internet, from an addiction perspective, it's just again still under study. And there are internet addiction scales. There are different kinds of scales available. Have they been vetted, verified across the world to say I want to include this? No. One thing that has entered ICD-11 by the WHO recently is gaming disorder. So there's gaming disorder and internet gaming disorder, and hazardous gaming. So gaming certainly has made its way, and right now it's very similar to gambling, because they are trying to hook the children or adults. Actually, a lot of gamers are in their 30s.
Yes,
So they are the elder millennials,
Yes.
right? And these are designed by psychologists, like you said, to make sure that they are very addictive. So what could you do? So any addictive behavior, whether it is the food, whether it is a process such as internet or gaming or gambling, or using a substance, right? So non-substance and substance. So is going to be, why are you doing that? You're trying to escape pain, right? The idea is that I'm going to escape pain, or even boredom. Now boredom also has started getting perceived as pain. It's not really.
Yes, yeah.
The brain needs some free time. If you should get bored, that's when you get more creative,
Resting is very important.
right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately that is almost seen like, I can't be bored, that's just painful to me. So it is avoiding pain or escaping the the issue. So that's kind of why I've been doing my Instagram series, Escape the Escape. Is once you start doing these behaviors and it gives you this a little bit of a dopamine or a lot of dopamine depending on what the behavior is, then you are perceiving a high as satisfaction or satiety, but they are very different. That's one is serotonin, one is dopamine. So how do you put some stops to this? First of all, before you buy a device for yourself or for your children, you need to decide what your boundaries are.
Absolutely.
And there's this whole trend that my child needs to have a device at 8 years of age, 5 years of age. There are, or generally what I see is parents, they will upgrade their iPhone, right? But they have an old iPhone lying around. So they'll be like, hey, give it to the child and just use it for Wi-Fi and YouTube in some way. And the child is clicking on all of these videos, and it's essentially an electronic babysitter. Again, that goes back to community support. What are we doing as a community to help the parents not do that? Right? And a lot of these, I was reading this book recently about childhood obesity, and it was okay, and but if essentially it said working mom. I'm like, what happened to the dad? Right? Doesn't he have two
I know.
hands?
Yes.
Right? Just
Yeah.
just don't blame the mom.
Yeah.
Right? What are we doing to support? So first of all, we need to create awareness. So thank you for hosting today. Set these boundaries. So set these boundaries for yourself as well as children or teenagers or young adults. And the answer is never going to be, I'm going to take the phone away and throw it. That is probably the worst thing you could do. Because the kids are going to feel extreme dysphoria, very lonely, and they can do unfortunate events. And that's, we've seen it over and over again in the papers. So it starts with a sort of a harm reduction goal. I'm going to have scheduled some time that is free of device. Essentially meal times. I'm also a culprit, okay? I don't always have meal times that are free because that's the only time I get to read something or catch
Especially
up
when
on
you're at
something.
work, it's almost impossible.
Right?
Yes.
And then the other part is like maybe at work, like 10 to noon is probably the most productive time. So make sure you don't touch the device between 10 to noon. You might have your work teams or whatever else that is on, or your internal messengers. You can decide whether you want to see it now or later, but schedule screen-free time through the day and see how it goes. And then the most important habits are going to be anything that's associated, like even with smoking, it's going to be, oh, I associate having a coffee and then going for a smoke. So if you have these associations, break them.
Correct. Yes.
And you start there. You start slow, start there, start rules as a family, okay, no screens at dinner time, or we are not going to watch TV or whatever. So you need to decide what you as a family want to do. So for children, there are these resources on the American Association of Pediatrics website where they will tell you what is a good amount of screen time and not. And you can actually use that app and come up with a screen time plan for your entire family, which is fabulous.
Yes.
And this is where it gets tricky, right? Because the parents don't want to give up their screens, but they want the kids to give up.
Yes, true.
You have to interact with them.
Gotta
You have
walk
to
the talk.
find
Absolutely.
non-electronic ways of entertainment. Go back to, I don't know, a game of dice, snakes and ladders. I don't know. Play some board
Outdoors,
games.
it's
Be
great.
outdoors, garden. Oh, I love your beautiful garden, by the way. That's what I do in garden.
Sports, exercise.
Yes,
keeps
so
you
we can
engaged.
try how to do that.
Absolutely. I try to limit the screen time. I think a lot of phones come with this. You can actually measure how much time you've spent on Facebook or whatever things you do, and I try to clean up or take all these messages only when I'm in the car during transit, when I'm commuting between workplaces. It's a great thing to keep track of not having the phone while eating. When we go out for the restaurants these days, we keep a basket and everybody puts their phone down and we keep it away. So until the whole, otherwise it's like people are sitting across the table and chatting with each other. They're not even speaking to each other face to face. So I think this is something definitely we should consciously look at. Moving over to smoking. Me in nuclear medicine, a lot of my practice involves cancer diagnostics, and we know more than 40% of cancers are attributed to smoking per se. People are not really aware, and this is not promoted enough. The US PSTF guidelines is a grade A recommendation where it's something which you definitely need to counsel the patients regarding quitting smoking. There seems to be a kind of concern that a small female population, if they smoke, they will gain weight. Perhaps some of them are physically addicted. There are specific tests to this. We do know secondhand smoking kills more than heart disease, and it takes over 2 years of usage of for a smoker to be truly physically addicted to this. So I know that you are a super specialist in this, and if you could take us through the steps of what can one do to make it easier to quit, if that is something which has come across their mind. Many of them tell me, oh, I know I can quit anytime, or they want to quit, but they don't have, they are not aware of the possible help or the a lot of new things, medications, strips, patches are available, which can truly help them in this journey. Could you take us through this a bit more in detail?
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Definitely, it's the single most important thing that you could do in your life is to quit smoking.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the data is just enormous, and there is just no need to smoke.
Yes.
Right? Your body does not need a smoke.
Yes.
But definitely the tobacco companies want you to believe that way. And now people are doing a lot of smokeless tobacco. Definitely, gutkha and other things have been prevalent in India from a long time. But now smokeless tobacco or e-cigarettes are becoming more and more popular. So what they do is they design these like Oreo cookies or butterscotch or mint chocolate, those kind of flavors.
Okay.
And they first start with the gums that have only the flavors,
Right.
but no nicotine, and then they transition to nicotine gum.
Okay.
And that's how they're getting younger children addicted to
Right.
nicotine.
Okay.
And then all of these vapes also have these sort of flavors, and whatever unicorn flavors, rainbow flavors, whatever the children will find appealing, those kind of packaging, those kind of names, to catch them early, because now everybody knows big tobacco is not a good person, right? And it's something to be avoided. So big tobacco has to find a way to get through this. Right?
Yes,
They want to maintain their coffers.
Yes.
So then came sort of startups such as Juul, thankfully that they have disbanded now. But basically they became like these flash drives and they're actually smoking flash drives. So you would carry it in your backpack, and your teachers will not know whether it's actually a flash drive or a vape pen. And then there are regular vape pens that look sort of like a modified hookah, which is a very short one. And it came with this idea of I can smoke anywhere I want, because the smoking outside is only for cigarettes, and people would try to bring it into my clinic and start vaping in front of me, and I'm like, that's not okay. You can't do that.
Yes.
I mind it. If you want to smoke, you can smoke outside. And this idea that okay, we can have our cake and eat it too. We can just have these vapes and it's all okay. And there are so many influencers, especially in India, employed by these companies to promote their vape products, and also targeting females, because traditionally we are a country that females have not used substances. And how do you make it cool? Whether it's alcohol, whether it's smoking, whether it's cannabis, everything's supposed to be cool and the new cool. So what can you do? So first of all, you remember, first time you tell anybody you should try quitting smoking, the first response you're going to get is, I've tried and I go back to it. And the thing I tell my patients is, generally on an average you have to try to quit about 8 times before you stay quit.
Right.
So
8 times, yes. I think that's a message I would like our viewers, because many people, I tried and then they got back, and that kind of gets into a chain. They lose their confidence and they feel this is something. But even trying once is very good, so it's one step down.
So I just asked him how many times you tried, and they'll tell me like over the last 10 years I've tried 3 times. I'm like, okay, you got 3 of your tries out of the way, you just have 5 more tries to go.
Absolutely.
So then they want to get on that page.
Right.
It's not like, oh, I'm a failure, this, that, all of that negative self-talk gets out of the way, and it's just an assignment that needs to be done. Secondly, you have to set a quit date. Ideally, just a week from the time you talk to a doctor. Longer, people will not generally do it. The data shows either the same day. Sometimes patients are like, today. Sure.
Yes.
And sometimes patients are like, I want to finish the cigarettes I have at home. How about next week? And that's fine. That is the play of the mind. I'm like, as long as we are making a plan and sticking to it within 1 week, that's good.
Right.
The first 3 days are going to be the hardest. The commonest side effects are going to be like headaches and constipation. And take medicine, take paracetamol, take isabgol for your constipation, whatever.
Okay.
Get through those 3 days.
Right.
Once you get through the first 3 days, it's going to be easier.
Okay.
Some of the options that you have are like these nicotine gums, and they come in different. I guess this is a 4 milligram gum. And then it also comes in 2 milligrams, and basically they look like chiclets, and you can use up to 10 to 12 a day. And generally, patients will say, "Oh, I used a couple of gums and then I went back to cigarettes." I'm like, no, you keep using gums till you need them. So you use a gum in the morning before you even brush your teeth. That's how you start off the day, right? Or a lozenge, or a Nicomilk, or whatever it is. Any of these nicotine replacement, or we call it NRTs.
Right.
They're also patches. So if you're smoking more than 20 cigarettes a day, I would go for the biggest patch you can find, and start with that. So put on a patch and start using the gum for the first 3 days. Yeah, and you can change where you put the patch. Sometimes if you have the patch on, you might get dreams.
Okay.
If your dreams are too intolerable with the patch on, you remove the patch at night.
Okay.
Make sure you keep nicotine gum or cough drop next to your bed,
Okay.
because the first thing in the morning you should put if you peeled off your patch, then it's a 24-hour patch.
Right.
If you peel it off, you're not covered through the night.
Yeah.
So in the morning, as soon as you wake up, before you even get off of the bed, from your
Right.
bedside table, you use the lozenge.
Right.
Okay, and then you go about your day.
Right.
And then there's always pairing. I have my cigarette with coffee, I have cigarettes with lunch, I have cigarettes with dinner, whatever. So if you're packing your lunch for work, pack, I give enough. I start people with like 300 of these
Okay.
cigarettes. So like you put one patch, or one pack in your lunchbox, one pack in your truck or car.
Right.
It literally should be everywhere in your
Right.
wallet,
Absolutely.
so that it's there, it's handy, and you're going to use it. Otherwise, you're going to be like, "Ghar pe pada hai, jaane do."
Absolutely, yeah. I think these are available in most of the medical stores, and they don't even need a prescription. I think they should be sold in the grocery stores where they keep all the candies at the checkout bar.
Yeah.
I think they should put these things
that's
more
how-
handy to kind of create more awareness about this.
Luckily, where I work, they are just given for free to a patient.
Oh, that's great. That's
So like a
wonderful.
box of 300, they just walk out for free.
Yeah. Okay. And they have medications too now, right? To put you on the
Yes.
Yeah. So I think these are all prescriptions, and I think that's where de-addiction specialists can truly help them.
Not necessarily.
These are
Your regular doctor should be able
can
to
be
help.
able to prescribe.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
great.
Because,
Maybe we should have another session just for physicians to get comfortable with the prescribing these medications and what combinations for how long, 4 to 6 weeks. I know relapses are better in monotherapy, and multiple combination therapies have better response rates overall.
So
yeah.
the thing with the medication or quitting smoking is concerned, all physicians should be able to help you if they're patient facing.
Absolutely,
I'm not
yes.
saying go to the radiologist or the pathologist, right? I'm saying patients
Yeah.
facing, whether it's your gynecologist
Yes.
and you're pregnant, thinking of getting pregnant, you want to quit smoking or chewing tobacco.
Yes.
They should be able to help you. They're more than happy to help you, in fact.
Yes.
And this will help navigate. And to think about it, if we send everybody who smokes to the addiction specialist, there's not going to be any room in their clinic. There just isn't.
Very true.
And more importantly, you don't need to be an addiction specialist to do this. Any family doctor should be able to.
Absolutely. I think I personally see a huge need of education and training amongst physicians, both in the Indian and in the American context, because coming from the training background, I've trained and practiced in both sides. I think it's also we need to get more comfortable with it. We know these things are available, we can suggest it, but hand-holding, answering all the questions patients ask, and handling relapses especially, I think we can all be educated on that.
So I'll be writing a book.
Okay.
And it will be, first part is going to be train the trainer, sort of a handbook, and then later more of a general book.
Yeah, when I was writing my book, that is one specific topic I left out, because there's a lot, and I truly at that time point I felt that a specialist would be able to do more justice to this. I've covered all the other aspects of lifestyle medicine. There are 6 pillars in lifestyle medicine, like all of us know. We've covered food, exercise, sleep hygiene, stress management, and positive psychology. I've mentioned the harmful effects of smoking and alcohol and digital distractions. in the consecutive chapters. But I think a handbook, particularly on this topic, is definitely the need of the hour. Moving over to alcohol, I think almost every party, even some of the physician gatherings, are always, alcohol is like a big attraction in most of the parties, and many people I know are social drinkers. Where is the line? Where do you draw the line between, are you a social drinker, are you a binge drinker or a heavy drinker? What puts you at risk for addiction per se? I know the content of alcohol percentages in the different drinks available. Be it the beer or beer, I think is about 5% alcohol, and wine, which most of the women prefer, is about 12% alcohol, and shots about 40%. So the concentration of alcohol in each drink can vary, and the definition of a social drinker or at risk drinker depends on the number of drinks you would count or which you consume, and the size of the drink. These things can vary. So just as a ballpark, how would you keep a tab of which category you're in? I mean, 5 drinks in 2 hours for men and 4 drinks in 2 hours for women. That's what is the cutoff for binge drinking. So if you could talk to us more about alcohol.
So the first thing I would like to say, there's no indication to drink alcohol, only contraindications against
Absolutely,
it.
yes.
This whole idea that everything needs to be accompanied by a drink, that is not your idea, that is not a cool idea. You have been programmed by these alcohol companies to think that way,
Yeah.
and you need to question.
The only drink is water, which you need to drink, I think, with every meal. So,
Yeah.
if you must drink.
Right. So why only alcohol? Why do you want to feel disinhibited? Why do you want to create a ruckus or be a happy drunk? I don't know. You don't have to. So sometimes there are many people who are like, I don't really like to drink, but this is what I have to do to appear cool. Then I'm sorry, you don't have the right friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your friends should be accepting of you, whether you're drinking or not. And if you are especially struggling with alcohol and you would like a drink-free environment, they should be helping you, going out of their way and helping you, and not drinking, because really, you don't need to drink. Nobody does.
Right.
Okay? Now, so a different way of looking at it is, I was reading this book called Quit Like a Woman. It has some language.
Uh-huh.
But other than that, it really narrates how alcohol as the social importance has been really put upon women. Like, you have to drink, and you have to drink to excess, you have to drink to pass out, to be considered cool or hip when you're 20. And that's why it says quit like a woman. Like, own yourself, own your awesomeness. I don't need a glass in my hand
Absolutely.
to look cooler.
Yeah.
I am
I
cool
think it's
as
the
I am.
media influence.
Yes.
They prep. They say when you need to sell a product, if you're trying to fill a hole, and if there is no hole, you first dig a hole.
Yeah.
So they pretend there's a macho-ness associated with smoking and a coolness factor with drinking.
Yeah.
That's because you are the victim. You're falling prey to this media gimmicks and
Yeah.
marketing. I think that's a very important realization once you don't fall into peer pressure or the marketing strategies. That kind of bulb on needs to happen,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's marketing strategies paid by who? Who's paying for these product
Absolutely. Yes.
placements? It's the alcohol
It's
companies.
the people who make money out of
Yeah.
your weaknesses, in a way, if you will.
Yeah. No, they create this false matrix, right? This is a hall of false assumptions, saying, okay, this is what I need to do to appear a certain way, or to appear certain money, and that I have some amount of money, that I'm a wine connoisseur, I'm going to stir
Yes,
move the glass in certain way, pretend I can
Yes.
detect a hint of this and that, and it's kind of
Pair it
create.
with the right food.
It's a
and
process. It becomes
it's
like a
strategy
process.
of business. Yes.
And it's a process addiction. Like, oh,
Yes.
I'm going to do this process and feel good about myself.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So that way, I mean, you said the right thing. It's 5 drinks for men,
Right.
4 drinks for women on a day.
Yes.
And so these are binge drinking numbers. Now, who is a social drinker? I think those lines are more and more blurred by the day. So I was just recently in Orlando, we were chatting. I'm like, why do we need alcohol at baby showers? Why is it even a thing?
I know.
The guest of honor is not drinking.
Yes.
And then you are not throwing a good baby shower if you don't have 20 bottles of champagne or something.
Yeah.
Ridiculous,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of percolated everywhere. As far as social drinking is concerned, people say I only drink socially, and then you say, when do you socialize? Well, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then you are no longer a social drinker.
Yes. Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
You're a weekly drinker.
Yes.
So social drinking, maybe you would say a couple times a year, or 4 times a year, or 5 times a year at the most, like every other month.
Yeah.
However, that would be, you go out, you limit yourself to 1 or 2 drinks, that would be probably social drinking, right? The other part of it is binge drinking. Why is binge drinking important to know? 2 things. One is Indian context. So we as a population don't have that much capacity to digest alcohol. So we go from binge straight away to severe alcohol use disorder.
Okay.
You don't stop, you don't collect $200. You don't stop at mild, you don't stop at moderate.
Right.
This is a phenomenon called telescopy.
I
So
see.
because of our genetics, we go from a heavy night of party, maybe 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 drinks, whatever it is. Nobody remembers after like the 6 or 7 drinks sometimes, right? And then suddenly you're drinking every night and to excess. That's what is called as telescoping. Now, second part is COVID happening. COVID, the epidemic of loneliness or pandemic of loneliness, correct? All of this social distancing, everything got shut down. People were with their abusive families for a long time. They could not even get out. So many things happened. Or so many people, unfortunately,
Yes.
lost their lives, and so
Yes.
many people went, missed their loved ones,
Right.
and everybody went telescoping,
Right. Right.
regardless of genetics.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't know, this year has been more and more clinically, more and more alcohol use disorder. People are 40s,
Yes.
50s. I've never drank in my life, and I'm now drinking half a bottle of vodka daily. What can I do about it? And they're like, it's okay. It's COVID. I got you. We're going to get through this.
I know. I think when in India we saw 3 phases of COVID, and I think every time they opened up the first shops, they did it in a very phase by phase. They had timings for these certain shops, and one of the shops which opened up were the liquor stores. And amazingly, they were the ones who maintained most discipline, because they were very scared if they were going to be shutting it down, if they were not wearing the mask or maintaining the physical distancing. So I thought that was a fun observation to make. So moving over to the last part, but not the least, work addiction. I think we are all in a way good at what we do. There are some people who are addicted to work, and I think it's important not to let the stress of work affect your health. It's very important to do that. And there was a California survey which showed that more than 50% of the doctors reported of moderate to severe stress per se. It's a good thing to have work-life balance, or I would like to call it life-work balance, because the line kind of blurs in between, especially when you love and you're passionate about what you do. So, Dr. Mythika, let's walk the talk and bid adieu to our viewers on this beautiful Sunday morning. This session was mainly because we truly care about your well-being, our patients' well-being, and want you folks to take good care of yourselves. So have a great weekend. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here.
Any questions you want to take?
Yeah. Any questions?
No, the session has 40 minutes.
Okay.